Hello, and welcome to another gentle descent into the past. Tonight, we'll open the doors to a world once lost, now rediscovered through quiet storytelling. Perhaps you're lying still beneath the covers or letting the last hours of the day melt away. Either way, I'm honored to have you here. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Are we continents apart or just a few? Time zones away, both listening as the stars come out. If you enjoy resting too, soft-spoken tales and thoughtful history, be sure to subscribe. There's so much more to uncover together. In 1347, the first year of the Great Plague in Europe, infectious diseases ran rampant. Social systems collapsed, and people fled in all directions, leaving corpses everywhere. There was a group of doctors in bizarre outfits, with very limited medical skills, who went against the tide and entered plague-stricken areas. Not only did they use all the knowledge they had, but they also helped patients suffering from excruciating pain to pass away sooner, often falling ill alongside them. These were the famous beak doctors. The beak, the glands, and the Black Death turned these doctors into messengers of death. This was the legendary king of plagues, the Black Death. Throughout human history, countless infectious diseases appeared, but only a few truly deserved the title of plague. Every one of the famous ones left enormous scars on human society. At the top of the plague rankings, the Black Death profoundly altered the course of human history. Historian Bojack described the Black Death as follows. Nosebleeds were a sign of impending death. Mysterious swellings first appeared in the inner thighs and armpits, quickly growing to the size of eggs or apples. They then spread across the body, finally forming dense black spots. Almost everyone showing symptoms died within 3 days. Historically, there were 3 global outbreaks of the plague, sweeping across Europe, Asia, and Africa. Wherever it went, it was like a swarm of locusts. Nothing survived, not even livestock. One outbreak in the Middle Ages wiped out 1/3 of Europe's population. The average lifespan dropped by 20 years. It was one of the deadliest events in human history, killing tens of millions globally. The spread, the destruction, and the lethality were unprecedented. Even today, it remains one of the 40 legally recognized infectious diseases in China. In 527 AD, Justinian ascended the throne of the Byzantine Empire. At the time, he was defeating the Vandals in North Africa and pushing against the Ostrogoths in Italy. With the dream of reviving the Roman Empire seemingly within reach. But fate had other plans. A terrifying plague swept through Constantinople, the empire's capital, and eventually the entire empire. At the time, Constantinople had nearly 1 million residents, the largest city in the West. Conservatively, this plague killed at least 1/3 to 1/4 of the population in just 3 months. Initially, Justinian tried to manage the dead, but soon, those handling the bodies themselves became corpses. He ordered massive pits to be dug, each capable of holding over 70,000 bodies, but burial could not keep pace. Some corpses were simply thrown into mountains and valleys. This plague shattered Justinian's ambition to revive Rome and changed the course of European history. All citizens, including Justinian, believed this calamity was the will of God beyond human control. Europeans began to place their faith in religion, allowing Christianity to rapidly expand. Over time, explanations for the Black Death evolved from divine will to planetary alignment, inherited ailments, and even miasma, but few connected it to the mass death of rodents. The Black Death, or plague, is caused by the bacterium Yersinia. It does not spread like rabies through bites. The main culprit is fleas on rats. Rats are highly immune to the bacteria, though they can die eventually. Fleas, however, ingest the bacteria when feeding on rats. As the bacteria multiply, they block the flea's digestive tract, forcing the flea to regurgitate bacteria into the host during its next bite, infecting mammals, including humans. Once in humans, the bacteria attack the lymphatic system. Inflamed, painful, and pus-filled lymph nodes appear, known as bubonic plague. If it spreads to the bloodstream, it becomes septicemic plague, progressing rapidly, often killing within 1 to 3 days. If it infects the lungs, it becomes pneumonic plague, highly contagious through droplets and almost always deadly without treatment. From 1345 to 1346, the Mongols invaded Korea. Khan Johnny Beg laid siege to the Italian trading post of Kaffa. During the siege, a massive outbreak of plague occurred in his army. In a tactical move, plague-infected bodies were catapulted into the city, spreading the Black Death. Surviving merchants fled by ship across the Black Sea, bringing the plague to Constantinople and Europe. In October 1347, the Black Death officially landed in Europe, starting in Sicily. In Florence, Italy, the population decreased by 80%. In 1348, Marseille, France, saw death rates soar to 60%. By May, it reached Barcelona, Spain. By September, London. Between 1347 and 1351, all of Europe was under the shadow of the Black Death. People collapsed in streets, dying instantly, or perished alone at home. Corpses were transported outside cities daily. The father of Italian humanism, Petrarch, wrote that there was no thunder, no war, no massacre, yet the world was emptied. The plague killed 1/3 of Europe's population, about 25 million. Survivors saw devout believers die tragically, while some clergy escaped more easily, shaking faith in divine protection. This shift from a God-centered to a human-centered worldview laid the foundation for the Renaissance. Poor sanitation in medieval towns fueled the spread of the plague. Most cities had no concept of public hygiene. Mud piles, garbage, and stagnant water were everywhere. Waste was often thrown from windows onto the streets. Paris eventually centralized waste removal, piling it outside the city, which hardened over time, creating climbing hazards for invaders. During the Middle Ages, personal hygiene was almost non-existent. Bathing was often seen as sinful or dangerous. People believed that hot water opened the pores, letting disease enter. So even nobles rarely bathed, sometimes only once or twice a year. This lack of hygiene created a paradise for fleas and rats. The fleas carried Yersinia pesticibacterium, causing the plague. Doctors of the time tried every method they knew. They burned aromatic herbs, prayed, or applied leeches. None of these could stop the death spreading like wildfire. The beak doctors wore long robes and leather gloves. Their beak masks were filled with lavender, mint, or they believed the sweet smell would block poisonous air. In reality, these outfits offered almost no real protection. Many plague doctors died after only weeks of service, yet their image became a chilling symbol of the Black Death. Even today, that curved beak mask remains one of history's most haunting icons. It represents not only the fear of disease, but the courage to face it. The beak doctor stood between the living and the dying, a grim witness to one of humanity's darkest chapters. Medical science at the time could do very little. Treatments like bloodletting, purging, or herbal potions were common, but none of these could cure the plague or stop its spread. Barbers often acted as surgeons, using the same tools for both jobs. The red, white, and blue barber pole symbolized blood, bandages, and veins. By the 16th century, plague doctors began wearing protective suits. Their long coats were waxed, and their beaks stuffed with herbs and vinegar. They thought these would filter out the poisoned air. But against an unseen bacterium, their efforts were futile. Real scientific understanding came much later. In 1894, Alexander Yersin identified the plague bacterium in Hong Kong. In 1898, Paul Louis Simond proved fleas on rats spread the disease. In 1910, Dr. Wu Lindei led the fight against pneumonic plague in China. He introduced protective masks and proved the disease spread through air. His methods laid the foundation for modern epidemic prevention. With antibiotics and hygiene systems, the plague is now treatable. By 2018, global cases dropped to just 243. In 2022, China reported only one case in Ningxi, but humanity's struggle with plague is far from forgotten. We still honor the doctors who faced death to save others. They stood on the front lines, risking everything during those dark nights. They fought against fear, ignorance, and death itself. Though many fell, their courage lit the way for future generations. The story of the Black Death is not only about death and despair. It is also about the unyielding human spirit to survive and to learn. From plague doctors to scientists, from faith to reason, humanity endured and moved forward.